In this lesson, we'll take a look at a couple things we might want to check for and change if we were to publish our site. In our last lesson, we learned how to start making advanced changes to our site design using CSS, and also how to make even more changes using a child theme. And one thing I noticed was that my paragraph wasn't pulling in the styles like it should have here in the kind of entry blurb. So what I noticed that I did or forgot to do was in our theme options, when I came back and added that front page content, I formatted those headings especially so I could add those, but I forgot to come in and mark up our paragraph with a p tag, an HTML p tag, like we did at the beginning of the course. So as a result, WordPress wasn't treating this like a paragraph. It didn't know what it was really. So we just need to come back and fix that and add that p tag if we do something like this where we're adding other HTML tags to add headings like I wanted to do to have a bit more options for formatting content. So I'm going to go ahead and save those options, and then the CSS was able to recognize that that was a paragraph and apply the styles it needed. So real quickly, let's take a look at kind of our finished website. Overall, I think it's starting to look really nice. If we come over here to our menu page, we have that kind of elegant gallery. We have our content displaying nicely. If we come over here to our location and hours page, we have that looking pretty nice as well. So the last thing we would really want to do is come through and check some things about our site. The first thing we want to do is we want to try to keep our file size as low as possible in our final site so we don't increase our loading times unless we need all of that stuff. So one of the most common things that increase our file size unnecessarily is extra images and plugins and themes that we didn't use. So as we're coming through here and playing around, we might be uploading a lot of extra images. We might be installing themes and switching back and forth and trying out to see things we like. And all of this is going to be stored, and we need to kind of delete that and clean up our file. So I'm going to come in here to our dashboard. And one way we can delete extra images is just coming in here to our media library, and you can see when you're uploading things multiple times, it can be really easy to accidentally add those multiple images. So you just want to make sure that the ones you don't use, I just want to come in here and click to delete that image permanently. I'm going to go ahead and press OK, and I would want to go through here and delete these extra ones as well. I'd also want to come here to my plugins page, and if I was testing out plugins and found one I didn't like, I want to come in here and delete the ones I wasn't using. And then I'd also want to come into my appearance and go to my themes and also make sure that I don't have any extra ones I'm not using as well. It's always a good idea to leave the default themes, and that's what WordPress itself recommends doing in its official documentation. So it's a good idea to just go ahead and leave those default themes there just in case you need them. You always have a backup theme in that themes folder. In addition to having extra content or extra files that you don't need, another thing we need to watch out for before we publish a site is all of our file paths that we've added. So anytime we've uploaded an image, anytime we've added a link anywhere on our site, we want to check those and make sure that we're not going to break anything when we publish our site, because our final site address isn't going to be on localhost /Blue Leopard. We'd have a domain name or something like that. So one of the first things we'd want to come in here and change is if we come in here to our settings and go to our general settings, we'd want to change our WordPress address or URL to be our final site. So for example, if this was blueleopard.com, I'd want to change this to blueleopard.com, of course formatting my address right and having those two /, and updating it. That way it can update some of our links for us throughout our site. You'd also want to try to remember as much as possible anywhere else you hard-coded a URL. So for example, if I come back here to my site, you can see that my background is deleted because that file path is now wrong. So I could either come here through the customize editor and re-add my background when I published it that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that and save it. And you could also see that it's hard-coded. If I right-click and come down here to Inspect Element, I'll just show you the CSS real quickly. In my CSS, I have that URL. You can see that's a hard-coded URL. So I just want to change this beginning part to my final domain name. That way we fix that problem. We aren't going to break things like images and things like that. It can be really hard to remember everything you need to change. So one thing I like to do is come in and use this link checker, which I've included with your project files. It's in that links.rtf folder. Or file, excuse me. So you can easily get here and you don't have to remember this if you don't want to, but after you have your site up, you can come in here and check those links and make sure you haven't forgotten anything. Just take that extra step is a really good idea. The last thing we want to do before we publish our site is to make a save of our site or back up our site. That way, if we mess something up, we have a backup as well, so we aren't going to completely lose everything. So one easy way to do this is to come in here and install a plugin. So I'm going to go here to our dashboard and come down to plugins, and I'll show you a good one that's nice to use. I'm going to search plugins. It's called Backup WordPress, and I'm going to go ahead and press enter so we do that search. And you can see it's this first one right here, Backup WordPress. It's really great. You can schedule backups of your website. So if you're forgetting to save your site files, it can do it automatically for you. It'll email you your files. So really it makes this process really easy. And that is one of the most integral parts of having a successful website. That way, if something goes wrong, you always have an older version that you can go back to and you haven't lost all of your hard work. So we can do this automated with a plugin like Backup WordPress, or you can do it manually if you know how to save a database. You'd want to export your database and your site files as well. Otherwise, if you don't have that technical knowledge, then it's a good idea to use a plugin like this that can do it for us. The last step after that would just be to FTP your site files using your web host, and you would have a very nice new WordPress site. So now that we have our site finished up and we're ready up until the point where we'd be ready to publish it, we're done with our journey learning WordPress. So in this course, we've learned how to download and install WordPress, how to create our first WordPress site, how to choose and use a template, and how to add things like content, images, widgets, and plugins, and also how to change your site design using both the interface and advanced customization using CSS. So thanks for watching, and I really hope you've enjoyed and learned a lot watching your first day with WordPress.